podcast.
Yes,
Yes, if you want.
we're on. Yes. Hey, everybody. This is Brad Alexander with the Dad Pod. And today we have one heck of a special guest lined up for you. I snagged him at the last minute. But let me first tell you a little bit about me. Then we'll tell you about the Dad Pod. And then we will tell you about the guy on the other side of the screen. So, first of all, I am Brad Alexander. I and my wife own a real estate business in Central Texas with Keller Williams. I spent 15 years as a Texas high school football and basketball coach. The key thing there is football and basketball because most football coaches hate basketball coaches and most basketball coaches hate football coaches. I did both and managed to get along with everybody. So that's me. If you ever need anything real estate needed, an honest opinion, I'm not big into the sales part. I'm more into the honest part and just here to help people. What is the Dad Pod? Well, a few years ago, I felt like our country started going towards, and me being from a small town, it's been this way forever, but just judgmental. I feel like we live in a judgmental society. So instead of judging people on what we think about them, why don't we get to know them one relationship at a time? So I've started this podcast, but really it's a live cast of getting to know people, building, and our motto is getting to know people one relationship at a time. So, with that being said, our guest today is the Pflugerville Connally head football coach, athletic coordinator. Previously had a stop at Lake Travis. Previously, before then, was the head coach that we ran in together at Del Valley High School, where he was the head coach. So, without further ado, the head coach at head football coach at Pflugerville Connally, Charles Burton. Charles, who is Charles Burton?
Charles is a father of two, husband to Nicole, son to Charles and Gardenia, brother to Shante and John, God-fearing young man. That's about it, I guess. I think that fits it. Owner of dogs. Yes, that is Charles.
So you grew up in Fort Bend, Houston area, is that correct?
Yeah, southwest side of Houston, around the Alief, Mission Bend area. I grew up there. I was born in Virginia, around Newport News area. Moved down to Houston probably when I was, I don't know, 3, 4, something like that. And then proceeded to go through the Fort Bend school system before making my way to Syracuse.
And speaking of Syracuse, you played on the Syracuse football team with the one and only Donovan McNabb. Is that correct?
Yes, I played with Donovan McNabb and a few other greats. Graduated with Dwight Freeney. I had a blast there. It was a good time. Got to experience New York and snow and everything else that comes with it. So yes,
I will say that Syracuse Dome Stadium, that's pretty sweet. I mean, the atmosphere and that. I mean, so many people. I went to the UT Longhorn football game this last weekend. 100,000 people. Let me tell you, Charles, it was hot. I mean, it was. And my wife is sitting there saying, "But honey, you did this for 15 years." I was like, no. I was on the field yelling and screaming, running. I hate nothing more than sitting in one spot, feeling the sweat drops down my back to my butt. There's nothing worse than that. So for those people that go to those football games every single weekend in 110 degree, hey, more power to you.
Yeah, right? more power to them, man. So yeah,
but that stadium in Syracuse with the dome, that's pretty atmospheric, I would say.
Yeah.
Even a word.
Yeah, it's the loudest place I ever played. I played at Seattle, played the Seahawks in Seattle, which is known for being a loud stadium. Played at Michigan with 100,000, played at Tennessee with 100,000. And literally when you play in the dome and it's rocking, it only holds about 49 to 51,000, somewhere in there. But when it sells out and it gets loud, you literally cannot hear the person talking to you from a foot and a half away. So yeah, it was an amazing experience playing there. And being in that atmosphere. And we were in a height. We won 2 Big East championships, went to 2 BCS bowl games. Yeah, so we had a lot of fun there.
And so college ends, you're done playing, and I think you played a little bit after college. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was an undrafted free agent with the Arizona Cardinals. Went through a training camp there. Then I was allocated to NFL Europe, which is essentially the minor leagues for NFL. Played over there at the Ryan Fire for 2 seasons. In between both those seasons, I had another stint with the Cardinals. Then I finished up with the Denver Broncos, I don't know, 2004, 2005, maybe. I can't think of the year off the top of my head. And then yeah, that was it. And then into education after that.
Then you came back to Texas and started coaching. Is that right?
Yep. First job, Fort Bend, Dulles. I played against Dulles when I was in high school, and Jim Creech hired me there. He's retired now, but he's a great dude. Gave me the opportunity to start coaching, man, and kind of fell in love with it. I was there 8 years before I got the job at Del Valley. That's when we relocated to Austin, and we've been here ever since.
And so you left Del Valley. So now let's get into the dad part about it.
Okay.
So you come to Del Valley, and just so y'all know, let me give you a little back history here. I was a coach at Del Valley. I retired, not resigned, Charles. I retired from coaching. And the reason why I say retired is because you ain't ever getting me back in one of them schools. Right? So I would go back into coaching. I'm not going back into teaching. So especially post all the things that gone. We don't even want to go down that.
We're not. Yeah. That would take us down a slippery slope, man.
So I retired from coaching, and that winter, December, and that March-ish, I don't know, April, Charles came in as the new head coach of Del Valley High School. And so when I retired from coaching, I stayed and taught for 2 more years. So I got to work alongside Charles and got to know him for a couple of years, got to know his son, his wife, Nicole, and their daughter was finishing up at Hendrickson at the time. So
Cedar Ridge. I think, yeah, she started out with Huddle. Yeah, and then Cedar Ridge. Yep, she was Cedar Ridge.
So you've got a daughter that goes to high school, plays softball, and ends up being a Division I softball player.
Right.
And then Caleb comes in later, and Caleb is a highly recruited. Y'all got to do is Google Caleb Burton. Here's the story for you. My nephew is the same age as Caleb, and this was back whenever they were like freshmen or sophomores. And my nephew, who is this 15-year-old kid, right, comes up to me and he goes, Uncle Brad. I'm like, what's up? He goes, do you know this guy, Caleb Burton? I was like, yes, I've known Caleb since 7th and 8th grade. Yes, and they're like, you really know him? As if he was, this
social media, man.
Yeah, so Caleb was a very highly recruited football player out of Del Valley, and then spent his last year at Lake Travis High School. So talk about let's have a little bit of a conversation, which I really want to do, about raising children that are highly competitive.
Okay. Well, we started, I say both our kids off young, but that's probably incorrect. We didn't start our daughter off too young in softball, the sport that she wound up choosing to go play college ball. We started them off with soccer. We did some soccer. She tried her stint at youth basketball. And she still remembers a girl face guarding her and grabbing her all game, and she can't stand it. So she's that kind of wean, and then she kind of went to softball. A few years later, maybe 8, 9, something like that. Started off, in the little league in our area. Saw she had some potential. She made an all-star team. we did the All-Star bid with them. And then it was like, okay, well, she has a chance to be pretty good. How do we hone in on these skills? How do we get her to a point to where she's playing on highly competitive teams? Were we thinking scholarship at 11, 12? I don't necessarily remember or know. The wife is the one with the keen memory and all this stuff. Be dad/mom podcast, but I know we got heavy into it with lessons. Finding the correct team with a good mesh of girls and parents that she could travel, out of state with, who was going to challenge her competitively, but who was also going to build her up as a young woman. We thought it was important that she wasn't around people that was beating her down, people that were positive. That was from her hitting coach to every, adult that she really came in contact with when it came to sports. We wanted them to treat her as an athlete, like boy, girl, doesn't matter. She's an athlete, but do it in a positive way. So we found some good teams to do that with her in Houston. And she bought into it and she wanted to work hard. She wanted to see how good she can be. And so as parents, it was easy to feed that because you didn't want to let your kid down. And I'll tell you, this is a girl too that not only played select softball, but she also played, competitive volleyball. So, I think softball was in the fall and volleyball was in the spring, and then softball started in the summer. She was full round with those two sports for a few years, as we were trying to figure out which direction she was going to go. And I say which she was going to go, which I think is important through this because, she chose softball, but softball might have been her third best sport. She was really good at volleyball. I thought she could be an Olympian in track. And she chose to compete competitively at softball, and that was the sport that she chose. So we supported that and did everything as we could as parents to ensure that she was not lacking, which was a lot of sacrifice. You're talking about when we moved to Austin, she was a freshman in high school. So her team was back in Houston, which was an Impact Gold team. And there's another team, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, that we wanted to keep her on because they're the ones that were competing. They were playing against the best talent in the country. She was not necessarily the best player on the field there, so she was having to have to compete every day in practice, which that competitive spirit, I think, has fueled her to law school where she's at today. So I think it's gone a long way in kind of developing her as the woman that she is. And as parents, we just wanted to kind of support her and make sure we did everything we could. So that's kind of her.
Well, that you use that word sacrifice, and I remember growing up in the 90s. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, I played high school football for probably one of the most legendary high school football coaches in the state, Bob Shelton. So growing up here in this area, I grew up, I'm a year older than Drew Brees. So Drew was a year behind me. So I played against Drew and his team. And let me tell you, he had some dogs with him. Drew was actually a backup whenever, Drew, if you know the story about Drew, he was the backup and the starter got hurt. But back in those days, I don't remember the competitiveness of, needing I heard you talk about a hitting coach, driving to Houston, being on a team, sacrificing family time to be on a team. Man, being a parent. So for those of y'all that don't know, I have two daughters, Brooklyn and Madison. And Brooklyn is a barrel racer, highly competitive. Go price quarter horses and tell me what you think whenever you do that. And go put your child on a 1,200-pound animal and tell them to go as fast as you possibly can. And then Madison is a competitive gymnast. And when I tell people, and people are like, "Oh, okay, like cheerleader," and I'm like, "No. She goes She's at the gym. She practices more hours a week than the NCAA will allow a NCAA at age 12. She practices more, or at the age she practices more now than the NCAA will allow a college athlete to practice a week. So she's in the gym at 7 to 10, school at a charter school at the gym from 10 to 3, and then back in the gym 3 to 6.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Crazy. And it's competitive. And people often ask me, what are you going to do whenever she gets burned out and quits? And I'm like, well, then we'll go. Like you said, the Olympic, I think there's a lot of gymnasts out there that have become great pole vaulters, divers, because they understand how to. My daughter hates the word flip because it's not, flip is not a gymnast word. It's tough.
It's not a term.
Yeah, it's not a term. So they know how to use their body and do all those types of things. So, but what did you, I mean, were you thrown back a little bit whenever you were a college athlete, but you didn't have a personal trainer growing up, did you?
Yeah, no. So the times have changed, man. And so part of it with my daughter was this too, right? I think parents, as you try to find the fine line, right? So your daughter's in gymnastics and you don't know anything about gymnastics, right? So it's like, hey, somebody else teach her and it works out. Well, my wife played softball and she's a pretty good softball player. And she would do lessons with my daughter and teach my daughter and do all that type of stuff. And then, it gets to a point to where, you're being parent and being coach at the same time. And sometimes that's not always the best mix, or it's hard to manage, whatever the case is, or it leaves a headache, whatever. There's a bunch of reasons. So, us, moving forward, we found it was best to find somebody that kind of specializes in that, but also give her another voice to listen to. So it's not constantly our voice 24/7, and then the coach parent merges somewhere in between, and then all of a sudden you're lost at home one day, and we didn't want that to happen. So so that was part of the reason with going to kind of a private coach, but it worked out. You know what I mean? Even though the coach repeated a bunch of stuff that my wife would say, but it was coming from somebody else, so it was
Absolutely.
a different thing. So
I tell people that I am my daughter, so I don't know anything about horses. I've learned a little bit over years, and I don't know anything about gymnastics, except it's not a flip, it's a tuck. But what I do tell people is I'm still a coach by trade. I've always been a coach. I'm always going to be a coach. So the role that I have played in this journey that we've been on is I call myself their success coach. So when I was a coach, I really didn't learn until I got into business for myself, the idea of the power of the mind, the positive thinking, the affirmations, all the different things we can do mentally to help us be successful. And so me and my wife have been committed to helping the girls, find them coaches that and it just so happened that one of the best gyms in the state, one of the best gyms in America, the owner of the gym used to be part of the American coaching team. So it just so happened that Buda, Texas has one of the highest level gyms around.
Possible, yeah.
And we just fell into it. It was not on. There are people on the team that are literally moved across the country to be on the team with us.
Yeah.
Which is a big sacrifice. So I just don't remember in the 90s people making, maybe there were some people making those sacrifices, like the Westlake or the Highland Park or just certain, but now it seems like
everybody has it.
Everybody.
I think it's the sport you play also. I think in the 90s, I don't think it was uncommon maybe to find instructors in baseball and softball. I think they were around, probably not as prevalent because the sports hadn't blown up. Well, baseball had always been blown up, but softball hadn't blown up to the level it is right now. But in football and stuff, I think, even dealing with it in recruiting, this could go all over the place right now. But it used to be when you would see a sophomore running back on video, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, he was a sophomore, and you'd be like, okay, He may look like this as a junior. He may look like this as a senior. We'll get somebody in, we'll groom them, and we'll get them ready to go unless they're a phenom, unless they're special. Nowadays, the sophomore running backs look like seniors because of all the training that takes place and the specialization in the position and everything that comes with it, which is essentially skewed everything. So now you're in an arms race of, this window where you would try to figure out if a kid is even good to go to college. You're trying to force the skills and everything upon them, at a younger age. And sometimes those guys now are that junior running back, and you see his skills. That's the best he'll ever be because he's maxed out. So yeah, man, I think it skews it for everybody. I think for coaches, it becomes a little bit more difficult. I think it's twofold, right? I think college coaches have gotten a little bit lazier, and sometimes coaches are taking guys that aren't really as good as coaches, but they're good at recruiting, and they're kind of sacrificing one way or the other, which is then also forcing the kids they have to be better younger because they're about to go somewhere where they may not get the coaching that they used to get. So, again, that turns into an hour-long conversation, but that's kind of the things. It's changed, and if you want your kid to be considered to be one of the best and for these scholarships and everything that's coming out there, then you have to buy into the specialized skills training and trainers. I hated it. And then about 7 years ago, I sat down, I saw how things were going, and I decided to welcome those guys in, start talking to them, make relationships, make friendships with them, and then figure out how we can all help each other.
Yep. I mean, whenever you were at Del Valley, you had Coach Keith, a community member that was, a little bit of street, a little bit of community, a little bit of, recruiting the streets, all kinds of different things. But you brought up the sophomore football player. So let's talk about Caleb. So Caleb, I remember Caleb in, 7th, 8th grade. Caleb was a junior high dog. I mean, there's no question about it. But me and you have coached enough kids over the years that not every junior high dog gets a D1 scholarship.
Yeah.
There's been, we could probably write out a list of kids that, man, this kid was a dog. I remember I grew up here, so I got dunked on. Yes, white boy got dunked on at Del Valley in 8th grade, right? I later was a basketball coach at Del Valley and asked the famous Marvin Hall, hey, whatever happened to this kid? And sure enough, didn't even play his senior year. Got this, right? So we've all had those things. So Caleb, this is me speaking, not his dad speaking. Caleb was a dog in junior high. So you knew there was a chance. And that's where you got to start at.
Mm-hmm.
Then he comes in, and his time at Del Valley is up and down. He had some injury. He was, when he was healthy, he was great, but he wasn't always healthy. Is that fair to say?
I mean, his freshman and sophomore year were really good, and then his junior year he got hurt, so he missed his entire. He missed his entire junior year. Yeah.
And me and you, that's a big year for most kids that are wanting to go off to college. But still, Caleb went into that spring and was, I would say, 4-star or 5-star. So Charles's son, let's just throw it out there, was rated, if not the highest, one of the highest receivers in his class. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's what those guys did. Yes.
And so offers came in from everywhere. Charles and Caleb. Charles leaves Del Valley, and Charles and Caleb both go to spend Caleb's senior year at Lake Travis High School, and then Charles goes, or then Caleb signs and ends up at Ohio State. So take it from there. What did you learn through raising because you were a Division I football player, but you were a Division I football player without NIL, without Twitter, without social media. You know, you were
Yeah.
the one football player in the 90s. How was it raising a kid that is that high profile, right? Because every now and then, I know as a dad, sometimes you got to tap them on, sometimes you got to kick them in the butt or tap them on the back of the head. Get your little butt back in check type of deal.
Yeah.
So how was it going through that recruiting process with what the college coaches and what the world was saying? You were raising one of the best.
Man, for us, I think we're grounded in humbleness. He understands that what he has are gifts. We shouldn't take them for granted. I think social media is the demise of society. It just, in my opinion, as we talk about it. So as a young kid, when I'm in the 90s, I'm a top, 30 or 40, I don't know, recruit in the state of Texas. People really don't know that. Show up to a game, they know there's a good quarterback, his name may be Charles, whatever. They got little scouting stuff on the board, and you play the game, and the game's over, you go on about your business. Well, these kids now, like, they'll know if Caleb's dating somebody, they'll know who he's dating, where she goes to school. Any posts that he had made, any videos that he had made, anything positive, negative he had said before he even gets to the game. So now you can just imagine the trash talk that takes place. I used to see it. I used to see it. Caleb played, pretty high competitive AAU basketball. And I remember going to a basketball tournament, I think when he was 12 or 13 in Houston. There's this kid there named Bryce Griggs, who's a really good basketball player in his age group. He's ranked number 1. A team from Florida is there. They're playing with him. And I tell you, man, I've never, you see a 12 or 13-year-old who just wants to play sports and have fun and compete. And this kid couldn't do it. He couldn't have fun and compete. There's dads betting, exchanging money on a baseline, telling their kids to foul him. He can't guard them. Every time somebody gets a bucket on him, it is like they won a championship. And all this kid wants to do is play ball, and he can't because people know how good he is. And I think it's the same thing with Caleb. Somebody breaks a pass up on him. It could be a bad throw. He could drop it, or they can make a good play. We want people to make good plays. That's a part of competing and going against it. And he doesn't hear the end of it. It is, you suck, or that person's not good, or so on and so forth. So I think it forces kids to be, mentally strong and more mentally mature than they would have to be, 15, 20 years ago. And so as parents, we just try to A, make sure the noise never really got too loud. B, he remembers who he is and what he represents. So he goes out there and he competes and gives great effort at everything that he does, and good things should work out. We just started to stay consistent with that. We didn't talk about offers and every play, this is how you get a scholarship. We didn't, that type of pressure. I even tell parents now as a coach is not something that the kids need, because honestly, it doesn't really matter. If your kid doesn't get good effort, then he's not going to get a scholarship. If he hasn't been gifted somehow, some way, then he's probably not going to get a scholarship. It's just kind of things that are out of all of our control. If he could focus on giving great effort, being the best player that he could be, maximizing his ability, and then the cars will fall where they will fall. And that's the same thing we try to do with Caleb. Keep him grounded. Don't let stuff get to his head, which he did a really good job with. Try to be consistent in your effort. All those type of things that as parents, as us growing up and getting to where we are to be successful, are things that we thought helped us get there. It's the same things we try to impress upon him.
You said 2 things that I was talking to a parent, I think last week, and I said, listen, if you want to talk about the college recruiting thing, I was the recruiting coordinator at every high school that I ever worked at. And which means every college coach came through, and the head coach didn't want to deal with them, so he always sent them to me. Go talk to that guy. But I will tell you, I was telling a dad last week, if you want your kid to get a college scholarship, they take 2 things. They got to be able to do something special and effort. That's the magic sauce.
Yeah.
You got those 2. There's other things, size, offensive lineman size, this and that. But at the end of the day, how are they special, and what type of consistent effort are they giving? Because that's the magic sauce.
Yeah.
So Caleb goes to Lake Travis, and has a successful senior year there, and then goes on to Ohio State, and is now currently at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And so the NCAA rules have changed in the last couple of years. There's now a thing called NIL, and there's now a thing you can transfer. Correct me if I'm wrong. He can't transfer again until he's a graduate transfer. If he ever does decide to transfer again, you only get one transfer pre-graduation, and then once you can only. I know there was a kid at Colorado that was deemed ineligible because, you're only allowed to transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know exactly how that works, man. To be honest, I know I just saw something. There's a kid from North Carolina who just got approved, and they said they were waiting because he was on his second transfer. So again, I don't know if that's second transfer before graduation. I thought there was consolations for like if your coach left, if your head coach left, maybe that didn't factor into it. But honestly, I'm not too abreast on all those rules. I need to be. I just haven't got to that point yet. They're ever changing.
So how is Caleb doing at Auburn? And how is, you told me the other day that mom's been to every game. So how's Caleb doing, and how's that going?
It's going well, man. So Ohio State was cool. It was a great experience. National contending team. He was there down when they almost beat Georgia. We got to go watch that game. It was a great experience. We had a change of scenery. So he's at Auburn. And so far, so good. Classes are good. The living situation is good. He enjoys his coaches. He enjoys his teammates. Things as a parent, you want your kid to be comfortable and trust her in good hands, and we do. He's doing everything he should do. So all that's going good.
Is health good? Is he healthy? Is he injured? How's he's
no?
He's
healthy. He's healthy. He has some playing time in the first game. He's been traveling with them. Getting tons of reps and practices. He's still growing as a player. And so, as he would say this, when the time is right, the time will be right. We don't know when that is, but so all that's going good. And Coach Freeze is there, who has ties to the SEC. I forget. I think maybe he was at Richmond. I don't know where he was at the year before. Liberty.
Ole Miss.
The year
Yeah,
Liberty. He was
Liberty
at Ole Miss and Liberty. Yeah. Then I was at Auburn. So he's been in the SEC. He's had success there. Coach Davis is there. I think he played wide receiver for Auburn as a wide receiver coach. So Kevin's got a good relationship with all those guys. Coach Montgomery's there. Used to be the head coach at Tulsa, maybe. Was an old high school Texas football coach. Yep. So he's around a bunch of good people, man, and he's enjoying it. He's happy, and so that's good. And yeah, the atmosphere at Auburn is awesome. It's the only thing that sucks is we have to fly into Atlanta. So you got about an hour and 15-minute drive, but the Atlanta airport is on the right side of Auburn. So it makes the trip a little bit easier. You don't have to go through Atlanta to get there. But yeah, I went to go watch a game at A&M. So I think it's my first game ever going to watch at A&M. And that was a good atmosphere. You hear about, I guess, the Yale stuff or whatever it is that it's called that they do. It was our first time getting to experience that up close, which was pretty neat. My wife went to go watch the game at Cal. So she's been all over the place. She's going to go to the game at LSU next weekend. So yeah, she's having a blast, man, and making her rounds. And so it's good. And for us too, it go back to with kids and, as we're raising them, and yes, we're blessed. We've been truly blessed in a Burton household. Our thing is we never really push the kids for scholarship purposes. We wanted to push the kids for them to be in a competitive atmosphere, for them to test their limits, to have ups and downs, to know what failure is and bounce back. All the life lessons that we try to give the kids as coaches, right? And we try to explain to parents, hey, he's not starting right now, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is what we're looking for him to get out of it, so on and so forth.
Hey, there's a start and run. People don't realize that it's a big. Here's what I tell people: it's a big jump going from Thursday to Friday, and it's a big jump going from Friday to Saturday. and it's a bigger jump even going from Saturday to Sunday. And what people don't realize, the starting running back that is killing it right now at the University of Texas, he spent 2 years backing up two really good running backs and learned and grew and all that. And now with the whole social media thing and all that, everybody, expects every kid to go in and set the world on fire, the first year and it's, let me put it this way. My daughter has been up and down on her horse. And this last week, she had her best run she's had since the spring of 21. So it's been a roller coaster ride for 18 months or 6, however long that is. And her coach kept on preaching to her, trust the process, trust the process.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it's hard to trust that process when your daughter's crying, when you're losing time, when you're getting slower instead of faster, and the coach is there, trust it, trust it, trust it. And then all of a sudden, the last month, we started getting faster. I mean, we actually started horse shopping again. Like, what do we need to do? And then all of a sudden, about a month ago,
it clicks.
Starts getting, and then this Tuesday night, she runs her best time ever. So the coach was right. Trust the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've talked about one thing I will tell y'all. I've known Charles and Nicole and the kids for years. I will tell you this: when he talks about not pushing this, being that dad, because we've all coached that dad and mom. I could tell you story after story after story. But I will tell you this:
that's for your book, Brad. That's for your book.
That's my book. So those of you that don't know, I probably shouldn't say this out loud. I am writing a book. It's the memoirs. It's titled "The Shit I've Seen." Right, between coaching in real estate and being around. I'm telling you, Charles, at that UT game, I've been to 2 football games in the last couple of weeks: a Hayes football game, Hayes homecoming, and UT. And it reminded me why I don't go to games.
Yeah,
I can't handle the stupid people in the stands. I mean, just the stuff that are coming out of people's mouths.
I can't comment. In my old age, my filter is leaving me, and so
but I'm not a coach anymore. I don't work for anybody. I can comment. But then again, I can't comment to them in person because they may need somebody to help them sell their house one day. So I can't tell them just how stupid that comment was. But here's where I was getting at. In the day and age to where parents are so driven on doing everything so that their kid will get that scholarship or go to that school. I want to remind y'all, Charles said his daughter is at law school right now, and his son graduated from Lake Travis High School a semester early, so graduated high school in 3.5 years. So yes, athletics were being done. That's great athletes, but they were also, Charles was also great. One reason why I wanted him on here, and I've called him and asked him some dad questions and some dad coach questions over the years, is not only has he raised 2 successful kids, but 2 successful young adults. And so that really, when I have kids when my kids are Charles's age, I hope people will speak as highly of my kids as I can speak as highly of his kids, because I do know them.
I appreciate that, man. And again, it's, I don't profess to take credit at all. The wife is, as you know, with the coaching and what your wife had to do while you were gone, she's ran everything. You know what I mean? So she's got a phenomenal, composed head on her shoulders when it needs to be. And then she can lose it when she needs to. So the kids kind of get the best of both worlds to understand that, just to keep them on track and what was going on. And they responded well to it. So far, so good, So
I will tell you, my wife did not enjoy being a coach's wife. That was not, she did not grow up in small town Texas where the whole town shut down on Friday night.
Yeah.
My wife knows nothing about football. She knows nothing about basketball. I mean, it is absolutely. I'm like, honey, you married a coach and you still don't know any of these things. So coming full circle, Charles Burton is now at Pflugerville Connally. Tell us about how the Pflugerville Connally Cougars are doing. I remember back in the day, we had a pretty good team at Del Valley before you got there, and Connally beat us in a last-second touchdown, and they had some dogs back then. They had a linebacker number 6 that went. They had 4 D1 cats on that team at Connally.
And we need those days to return back.
There you go,
man. It's been awesome, man. The kids are a great group of kids to work with. They've been receptive to kind of our culture and what we're trying to implement there. I think they went 0 for last year. They were 0-10 last year. Right now we're 2-4. We just lost the game to Rouse 36-34. One thing that I didn't realize when I took the job there, I think Cuellar had to tell me, who's now the offensive coordinator. That was my first varsity win. Was when I was at Del Valley. Was at Pflugerville Connally on the field. So that's pretty cool for it to come full circle like that. But we're doing well, man. We're on our bye week this week. I'm gonna go scout tonight and tomorrow night. And we're gonna see if we can make a push. These last 4 or 5 games to see if we can get to the playoffs, man. And the kids were responsive. They showed up today in the rain this morning to get their work in. Didn't bat an eye about it. And so we'll see what the future holds. But it's been fun being back in charge and being able to lead. And I learned a bunch of good things at Lake Travis. Coach Carter's done a phenomenal job there. But that coaching staff, I was on the defensive side of the ball. So Ludeke was a defensive coordinator. Just a freaking brilliant, bright football mind. So being able to learn and grow there, has been awesome. And hopefully I'm taking some of those things over to Connally, man, and can help us turn Connally back around and get them to be a successful program.
And then, of course, we got it. Nicole is still at Del Valley. Nicole's his wife.
Yeah.
And she's the rock. She's the one that keeps it all together. And
man, she keeps us afloat. She's at Del Valley right now doing college career, CCMR, but she's helping kids get to college, write essays, do all that stuff, man. She's found the niche there, and she enjoys helping kids, sometimes reach goals or get to dreams that they didn't think they could get to. So she's having fun and enjoying that. And so, yeah, everybody's doing good.
I had to get it. I used to struggle with that because I had 2 great parents that did what they did. And Nicole does a lot of the things that, to be quite honest with you, those things ought to be being done by parents, but those parents aren't doing that. So the school districts have to get somebody to step in and play that role so that those kids don't lose an opportunity just because they didn't get an essay turned in on time to a college.
And a lot of times the parents just don't know. You know what I mean? A lot of these kids are going to want to be first generation college kids, and so their parents don't know the process that they should be taking place. And so she's there, man. She's kind of filling that void, and she's taking pride in it and is getting results. And so it's been good.
Hey, before I ask you my last 2 questions, just so you know, we've got Brandon Bills on Facebook, old quarterback coach of Del Valley.
Coach Bills.
For you, we've got Anthony Herrera, your old offensive lineman, on
So
Facebook.
Anthony, he should be doing some work right now. He should be coaching or something.
Hey, Anthony's getting ready for that Thursday night game and then the Friday night game. I know the life. You coach Thursday, you coach Friday, you work Saturday, you work Sunday.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, 2 questions. What is I'm doing this to every guest on the show. What is your favorite quote, if you have one?
Man, I don't know if it's a quote, but my thing is, don't worry about the things you can't control. It's a lot of things. It could be the people you deal with on a daily basis. It could be something that happens in a game. it could be an unforeseen circumstance that happens in your life, whatever the case is. If you can't control it, then there's a certain amount of energy that you could keep and put towards somewhere else. And that's kind of one of my things. It's not really, I say it's a pet peeve, but if you can't control it, man, don't waste your effort and energy on it. Find something you can control, that you can, affect the variable, and then spend your energy and effort towards that. And good things that happen.
Speaking of that, today, me and Charles set this up for 2:30, and I was supposed to be at a class from 1 to 2, not a class, a mastermind with one of the top people in all of Keller Williams International, like one of the dogs of the whole company. And I'm 5 minutes away from the office, and the wife calls me and says I'm broke down on the side of the road with a flat tire. So I've got this mastermind with its great opportunity. You know what? Nothing I can do about that. You got to go save the wife. So as soon as this is over with, so I've got the tire off of the front wheel in the back of my truck, rushed home, do the dad pod with Charles, and then as soon as it's over with, go try to get the tire fixed, put it back on the car, and call it a day.
Yeah, bro. Sounds like fun.
With that being said, do you have a favorite book that you've read? I'm not a reader. I've got a couple of books out there that have been instrumental, especially more in my business owning life than I will say in the coaching world. My two favorite books in the coaching world is One Heartbeat, and then the Lou Holtz Green. I call it the Lou Holtz Green book. Where it talks about the buck. And so those, in the world of coaching, those were my two favorite books. Do you have a favorite book, and what is it?
Yeah, so I think it's really a book that kind of put me on this path. I think it's called Tuesdays with Maury. It was a book I read in college, and it just basically gets you to a point of not chasing, doing what you love to do, and then making the most out of it. Which got me, to hopefully be a positive influence on kids, and to be around a sport, that is afforded me wonderful opportunities in life. So Tuesdays with Maury is a big reason why I got into the coaching profession and felt satisfied with it, and didn't feel a reason to have to go look towards other places to do other things.
There you go, folks. Well, I am Brad Alexander. Me and my wife own a real estate business here in Central Texas. That's the Alexander Home Team. Our website is the alexanderhometeam.com. He is Charles Burton, lifetime coach, athlete, father, husband. Want to wish the Pflugerville Connally Cougars some success starting next after their bye week, the rest of the season. And with that being said, thank you all for chiming in. Anthony, Brandon, thank you all for commenting on it. If you know somebody that you think this would be interested to, tag them on the Dad Pod with Brad Alexander. Share it, like it. Charles was able to watch this today. And Nicole, this is not a dad-only thing, right? This is the Dad Pod. This is the Dad Pod. And it's really, the way we started was, it's the Dad Bod. Take away the B, insert the P, because I have a Dad Pod, right? So Nicole, if you would like to be on the Dad Pod, absolutely, we would love to have the other side viewpoint from the Rock in the household. So with that being said, thank you to everyone. Please share this. Please like it. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, please just reach out to me and we would make that happen. Once again, thank you, Charles, for giving us your time. Best of luck in the future with your family in this season. And if you need anything, give me a call.
Without a doubt. Truly appreciate it.